Okay. I'm going to try it for a third time. Sorry, John. I want to answer your questions. Okay. What drives me? First of all, I was born in 1962. I'll be 55 in about 2 weeks. My mother, if she was still alive, she'd be 78. My mother had the perfect body for basketball, surfing, swimming. Kid you not. She was also a very good-looking woman. She was 5'4.5" and weighed 122 to 128 most of my childhood. She had curves. She had hips. She was C-cups. She had shoulders. She was very good-looking. And she knew a lot about makeup and cosmetology and all that stuff. That's what she used to do on the side. She used to fix people's faces up in the local drugstore when she worked very part-time. She was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a ditch digger. And she didn't have a very good life. She didn't have a very good childhood. And she had a she had a tough childhood and a tough adult life. And the thing that drives me is that I married the perfect man. I've been married almost 34 years. It'll be 34 years next year. All right. And the thing that drives me is when someone tells me that I can't do it or no, because I'm a girl, that always messed with me. And I'd say, okay, I got to prove myself right. You got to turn it positive. So you don't prove anybody wrong. You prove you're right. You prove yourself right to yourself. And my mom could shoot hoops. My mom could swim forever. My mother had a high IQ, higher than mine. And she had a high IQ like my daughter's. I'm sure my mother had, her IQ was probably 150 or so. That's what I think. I don't have that. I have a good IQ, but it's not 150. It's lower than that. It's not, and my kids are biologically not mine. So it's kind of funny that both my kids have the IQ my mother had and maybe a little bit higher. Pretty funny. So anyway, the thing that really has driven me all these years is I had some birth defects. I was told no so many times in my life. And when I had injury, I was told that was it. It was never going to happen again. I hurt my knees, hurt my back, I was told that because I was a girl, I shouldn't run, this and that. And I ran through it, and this is going to happen to you if you run, and all sorts of fallacies. And my husband has supported me. He's the one that pushed me into fighting. I was doing self-defense with Phil Dunlap. Now, Phil Dunlap also accepted me for what I was. That also helped. So I had a few good men in my life, or more than a few good men in my life. And that is definitely which helped my drive, okay? I'm used to doing a lot of things alone. I'm used to being alone in a lot of things. That was my running. Long-distance running is the loneliness of the long-distance runner, which is true. But I looked at my mother who had 8 illnesses. I kid you not. She was a very ill woman. And you wouldn't have known it for quite some time in my childhood until, later, if she never showed you her legs. But because she was my mother, I would see her legs if she was in the garden or something. And she had phlebitis. When I was 6 and she was 29, she had these in her left leg, thick varicoses, like this, horrible. Nowadays, they would have been taken out. But it was a matter of money. Come on. My dad was a ditch digger. We lived in a barn house. We were renting. And although it was great and everything, we had a lot of land and stuff, and we lived off the garden for a section of the year, and it was great. Health-wise, she couldn't be helped as much as she needed. Money. And the fact that some of the diseases that she had were kind of like looked down upon. My dad always looked at allergies and all sorts of things as, you're just weak and it's because you're a woman and you're a problem and a burden. So he wasn't of help at all. I married someone completely the opposite, thank God. So my mother was a very kind person, but very sick. And when I realized all the potential she had, but yet she couldn't really use it because when she was born was the time period. Okay, number one. Number two, she really had a lot of problems. Periodontal disease, phlebitis, stomach issues, ulcers, colitis, diverticulitis. And I know she had a lower back issue as well. And just, one thing on top of the other. So I looked at it like, listen, I got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, a brain. I'm healthier than her. And I prayed for my health too. And so I always look at that as an example of I'm looking directly at somebody who can't help themselves when I would look at my mother. That since I felt I could, I did. And in this man's world, as many say it, because it's still a man's world, I realized I was just going to probably have to take orders until I got to a certain point where I didn't have to. But when I go to do something, I accept the fact that a guy is going to give me an order and I'm going to have to take it, and I will take the best and leave the rest, and I will do as I'm told in order to learn something, even if I don't like it. And I learned that because I looked at someone who was much less fortunate than I was, who was standing right in front of me day in, day out as a child. And I remember telling my boxing coach, Mr. Steve Broder, that. And he said it made a lot of sense. So, hope that helped you in understanding my drive. There's a lot more to it, but that gives you a sense. Anyway, have a great night, stay safe, and be well.